Hi, everybody. This is Paul Byer, and this is The Paul Project, episode 7. It's a Saturday edition, and what I've decided to do on Saturdays is make it about answering questions. I get a lot of questions either through instant messengers on Facebook or DMs on Twitter or even on text message on my phone. Some of you have my phone number. Pretty interesting. So what I thought I would do is answer a few of those questions, but I want to start with, as I had mentioned last Saturday, with giving you kind of a weekend at a glance. This was a big week for me. I called it the Boz Week in honor of Brian Bosworth, my Sooner brethren and outstanding linebacker. Obviously played with our Seahawks here. And boy, that was a joy as a kid to see. Obviously, his career did not last like we hoped it would, but still, his greatness in college was hard to second. So, what I wanted to do in this week is, part of that big honoring of Brian Bosworth was his number. His jersey number was 44. And I did 44 laps each day in the pool. Actually, I did a few extra here and there because you won't believe what happens. Sometimes I literally forget where I am and in my count and end up doing an extra lap. I might have mentioned that prior. So real quick, let's break down the numbers of the week. And when I just kind of took the last 20 minutes or so to run them, it was pretty awesome. And hopefully this doesn't seem like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Hopefully it seems like something that you can maybe use in your life, if anything. And this fancy tracker, my Garmin Vivo Active HR, is outstanding, and it's smart. It learns not only me but my patterns, and it's just amazing what it's done, and just like my walking and the pool workouts and so forth. I'll do a real full breakdown review of this. As you can see, the face here in the next 2 weeks. I want to do it right. I want to do it good. I've never done anything like that, so I want to do a little planning, make sure it's done right. But I got a lot of stuff going on this week. Big weigh-in on Monday, so I'll find out if I'm finally over that 100-pound barrier, and a couple other doctor appointments. So, anyways, we'll get into all that. But let's get to the numbers here. The first thing is, how many steps did I take? Now, I know this is a kind of I don't want to call it a red herring. It's an important stat, and I know that so many people talk about this 10,000 a day number, and I've actually done a lot of research on this, and it's kind of bogus. I mean, I'm not trying to call people out there, but everyone's different, and so it's what number fits for you. I've done my own calculations, and for me at this point in time, I'm trying to get at least 8,000 steps in a day. So my number might not be, 10,000 or more or less. It is what it is, and I do my best to get the 8,000 a day, and I've done it most days. I've actually been well over it a few days, so it averages out, and it's just a barometer. It's kind of how I look at it. So for me this week, I did 51,353 steps. I'll also do whatever I do tonight, even though I do take Saturdays off of the pool. I do a walk after I have dinner and rest for about an hour. I'll go ahead and do a pretty long walk, a couple miles. So look forward to that tonight. And it's kind of a nice way to clear my head and get set up and get ready mentally for the week ahead, which will be another challenging one. Pool workouts, that's really my bread and butter. That's where I'm getting my work in. Obviously, because of my back pain and issues, and so it's really the place I can do it in the most comfort without having to put a whole bunch of undue stress on my back and the nerve, causing that nerve pain, which is just astronomically horrible. I did 15,425 yards in the pool. Like I said, 44 laps. Plus, I got to put the plus there because I know I did a couple more, and it's just because that's how it works out with the old tracker, making sure keeping my distances for me, and I don't really look at it while I'm going, so it just ends up being what it is. The the really cool part about this is I added up is how many laps is that? Well, 264. Do some quick math. 6 days times 44. That I thought that was pretty amazing. So when you're doing 15,000 plus yards, I actually talked to my lifeguard who I see every day, same guy, and Nick. You guys met him in my previous video. Nick, when he did competitive swimming, he said that an average workout for them was usually at the most like 3 to 4,000 yards in the pool, and he goes, that was tough. And so to see that I'm doing that much at my body weight and build and being well over 400 pounds, he just said, and I'll tell you, that's outstanding. So I get a lot of props from those guys, and I use them as a metric because they're kind of experienced swimmers. I'm not, football, baseball. What do you do? Intensity minutes. Now, this is something my tracker looks into because it measures my heart rate, and I really think it's cool. This is a great metric because it looks at when your heart rate is in that active cardio burn zone, and hopefully if you're out there, that's really, if you're trying to lose weight, that's the zone you want to be in. If you're actually above it, you actually are burning muscle as opposed to body fat. And so this is an important corridor for me to stay in. And in my case, I was at 1,389 minutes this week, which, honestly, I think it's amazing. My goal, and again, I kind of set this up for myself, is 1,000. So I kind of blew right past that, and very, very excited to see these numbers. So, I'll use them to kind of recalibrate and go forward. But I know this next week I'll be trying for 45 to 46 laps each day in the pool. Boy, and just after doing 44 and how tiring it was, I'm looking forward to this as again another hurdle, another quote unquote Uncle Rico mountain to climb, and I'll get there. Calorie burns. Now this was I looked at my the calorie burns every day, and I thought this would be cool to kind of share with you because everyone has, depending on their weight and their size, has a resting calorie burn. And that's like if you don't do jack squat, your body's going to burn a certain amount of calories every day. Now mine is 3,006 calories. Again, this is going to be different for everybody, all right? Some days, if you're extremely active like I was a few of these days, that number actually goes up. And a couple of the days this week, it actually went up to 3,667. I kick some butt, though, when it comes to the active burn and totals. And so I won't go into each day, but what I will share with you is the averages and totals. I think this is just super cool. So my resting burn was 23,025 calories. That's for an average of 3,289 calories a day. My active burn was 13,214 calories, which is an average of 1,887, give or take a couple of percentage points there because I rounded here. Again, just amazing number for me. Now, getting into totals, which is kind of the, what would you actually pull off here total? Total 38,563 calories burned, and the average per day was 5,509. So you can already tell here, my diet, I hate saying diet, but my nutritional plan is averaging this last week between 2,000 and 2,100 calories. So I obviously was taking in, I was burning more than 3,000 calories than I actually took in. Now, the interesting part about that is my research tells me that, and it's a little different for everybody, but basically between 3,000 and 3,500 calories is equivalent of a pound. So I burned the equivalent this last week of about 11 pounds. When you take into what I ate, it turns out being around 6.8 calories or 6.8 pounds burned this past week, which I thought was pretty amazing. I'm expecting a big number on Monday, and when I say lose, I'm gonna guess I'm going to probably be somewhere around 10 pounds lost. I was at 453 2.5 weeks ago. I expect to be at a 443 weight loss. And again, by doing this and measuring these numbers and keeping them, hopefully what it's going to give me is a real accurate, I guess, measure. It's a way for me to measure and guesstimate what I'm going to lose and see the work that I'm putting in, play out. And I'm really excited about this. It's maybe my part of my OCD personality. I know some of you out there know that I have a little bit of that, but it gets me jacked up. It really excites me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. The numbers from weight, like I said, 453. I'll find out what I weigh on Monday. That'll be a big video review. Waist, I took a measurement the other day and it was at 65 inches still. Again, I'm losing. I can actually feel up in the top of my body more, so some of the gut hangover that has not really changed. So that's kind of where my waist is. But again, I know I'm losing weight. So that's all I got to say there. The tracker, I know a lot of you have asked about it, and like I said, I'm going to do a review of it. But something I wanted to mention about it is, in my case, and kind of a derogatory, unfortunate thing, is that I'm allergic to metal. So when I looked at it, I knew that it was mostly a plastic rubber, device, and obviously it's used in the pool. But there are some metal pieces in it, around it, and unfortunately, I got a little bit of a rash on my left wrist where I would typically wear it. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you can, right there. The medicine I've been using actually did a lot of cleanup on it. Just a ointment I got at the pharmacy. No, not that kind of ointment. I've been wearing it on my right wrist. But what I did, and I got this great pharmacist. Obviously, I go there for a lot of my medications, but his name's Fran. Great guy. Super nice. Anyways, I told Fran about my situation, and he's like, hey, why don't you use a clear nail polish? I'm like, what? Me? I don't know if you're getting the wrong idea here, Fran. Anyways, Fran said, no, it's enamel. It's waterproof. You can just paint it over, actually just put it over the metal and coat it, clear it off with a little alcohol first and clean it, and then do this, and it should, at least for a little while, hold up and not irritate your skin. And you know what? It's worked on this hand, and I did it everywhere, on the screws, on both sides, as well as the little metal piece that's behind. So not too bad on Fran's part. I haven't had any issues on this wrist all week, as opposed to this wrist. After only like 5 days, I had a pretty serious rash. Well, there you go. The last question I'm going to answer tonight, and I've actually gone a little longer than I thought, 13 minutes, but a lot of people have been asking about what happened to your back. And I know that I wanted to go back and kind of share some of how I got into this situation with you as we kind of in bits and pieces as we do these videos. And I guess the best place to start is I had in high school, in my junior year, I was diagnosed with a stress fracture. It kept me out of a few games. It kept me out of about 4 games my junior year, and football. But it was all very new. No one really understood. It took so long to diagnose, going to sports doctor to sports doctor. No one really thought I had a back. How could you have like a serious back injury? Nothing showed it except for the inevitably getting an MRI, but also getting a bone scan. And then the disc was already degenerating at that point in time. So I was diagnosed with a degenerative disc disease, which sounds horrible, but I guess it's pretty common. And the second part is that the disc had a stress fracture. Now, a lot of people don't know what stress fractures are, which is basically just a hairline fracture in a bone, inside of a bone. It's not a break, and it's it's usually based on stress on that that area. So I had to wear this weird kind of stomach brace and, kind of lug that around school for I don't know how many, it seemed like a couple of months or something. And then I was good to go. I played baseball that year. I played baseball and football my senior year. My senior year, I only had one issue, one game where it acted up, and again, we thought it was the stress fracture, but I can tell you from that experience, it actually was my sciatic nerve, because the pain is what I feel from my sciatic nerve, and there's two different types of pain. And at the time, we just didn't know, and no one to blame. It's just what it is, what it is. Still, obviously, was able to get into school and get that scholarship to play football, but it never acted up again until after all this, and I started my professional life. Now, it was probably the first instance that I can remember it really being bad was 2000 and I think it was 2006. It might have been 2005, but it was right around Thanksgiving. I was thinking about going down to my sister's in Los Angeles, and out of nowhere, I literally was going to bed, and my back hurt, and I wasn't really familiar with what the pain was, but it felt like that same kind of pain I was suffering from when I was in high school and from playing football. And I remember staying up all night, and I did not know what to do. I couldn't sleep. I tried to, the next day, I was just trying to lay on my side. I was up the whole day, just trying to figure out some way to alleviate this pain. I took some medication that night to hopefully try to make me go to sleep, some NyQuil, that kind of stuff, and nothing put me out. It was the most miserable night of my life, and then I just said, you know what, you're not sleeping. I got up, got ready, and I went to the emergency room. Technically, actually, before I went to the emergency room, I went straight to Evergreen Hospital's orthopedic offices, and I was there at when they opened at 7 a.m. And I just said, hey, is there by any chance possibility I can see a doctor without having an appointment? Maybe someone canceled, it's first thing type of thing. And I'll never forget it because I was in so much freaking physical pain. And they said no, unfortunately. So I had to leave there and I had to go to the hospital, ER. I checked in, and I remember the lady taking my pulse, and again, I'm a guy that I think carries pain pretty well. I don't show it like crying. I'm just I probably sweat more than anything, and just maybe shake a little bit, but I don't want to. There's not a lot of out overexpression, I guess is a good way of saying it. But I was sitting there, in immense amount of pain, and the nurse was taking my heart rate, and my heart rate was elevated. It was like 100 and something ridiculous, 170, and she just looked at me when she saw the number. She was like, what is this? And she looked at me, she goes, are you okay? And I go, no, I'm not okay. I'm in a tremendous amount of pain, but I'm doing it like I am talking to you. And she's like, well, you're in a cardiac arrest in that situation. And I'm like, I'm not having a cardiac arrest. I'm just in a tremendous amount of pain. And it was kind of at that moment in time, they realized that I was just in that much amount of pain, and quickly ushered me into where the doctor was and got that all started. Well, I was laid up for about a month, I would say, but it wasn't like I was in bed every day. It wasn't that type of situation, but I was on some pretty severe medication. Pain medication at that point in time, but again, I got off it, got better, everything was fine, and I was getting healthy. I was going to the gym. All the things seemed to be going the right way, and then it was in the next episode was kind of when everything hit the fan, and that was 2000 and the end of 2008, where I went to a Seahawks game. I was having some issues that Saturday night. We actually we got a room down at the Silver Cloud, and we were going to have some fun down there and then go to the game and, make a big weekend out of it. And what ended up happening was that I was a mess. It was so painful. I got home that night and was able to at least get dinner. I remember I got a Subway, and I ate that Subway, and it was just, on the side, on my bed, trying to get comfortable, fetal position. It was horrible. But then I knew what it was, so I went to the ER the next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they were able to get me set up, so at least I was able to get some medication so I could calm down the pain. But it was bad. It was really, really bad, and that kept me out of work for about a month. I was in bed for most of that month, and it still had some after ramifications. I wasn't doing so hot with obviously my mental situation because of how everything was falling apart for me financially with the business and so forth, and mortgage company. But it just, everything was going in a real tailspin. Then when I got kind of settled and things had improved towards the end of the year in December, I got a new job down in Seattle at another company. And things were I felt like everything was turning around in the right position, but then they moved offices kind of very quickly after I got there. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but long story short is the trigger hit and I was out of commission again. This time, though, I was able to, after going through 2 months in bed, literally out of bed, and then an additional 3, and I didn't work for 6 months. Okay, I was in bed for the majority of those 6 months. It was a nightmare. I was getting shots each week to dull the pain. I wasn't on nerve medication at the time, which I am now, and it was hellacious. I was tired nonstop, sleeping. When you're on that much medication, it's what happens. And it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. And again, everything was nothing was going right. And being in bed that long, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was thinking horrible things, and I was just trying to didn't even know how to compartmentalize it. When I finally got diagnosed, though, the MRI I got showed that I had my L4 and L5 discs stacked. They're stacked like this. Okay, boom, 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 discs. Well, my L4 was off to the right, kind of back into the spinal cord, and the L5 was down, kind of off to the left. Now, not separated that much, but just to kind of give you a visual representation. And it was off to the left. And this one was rubbing into my sciatic nerve. That was causing the, debilitating pain, the aching and just physical discomfort. That was the other L4 holding into my spinal cord and cutting off some of the fluid, and it hurts my legs and so forth, and obviously provides a lot of discomfort. But those two things kind of going off in different directions, nightmare. And on top of that, the L5, the bottom one, was fragmented. It had 14 different stress fractures inside of it, and it's not very big. So basically, the thing was about to break, and it was just very, very weak. So that is what inevitably I got another trigger in May, and I was in bed for another 3, 4, 5 months. It was just horrible, and I was losing everything. So, but we're talking about the back right now. We're not getting into all that. So that's really what's been the situation. It took a long time. I had, no insurance. I was trying to piece everything together piece by piece to see a doctor to get some help. Inevitably, the help I did get, the best help I've gotten was over the last 7 months, finally getting steady insurance where I could look at this pre-bariatric process, and getting into that program is what's really enabled me to know exactly what the next steps are in solving this. And so, the weight has been one thing, but I'm actually suffering more from the nerve pain than I ever have, the shooting pain, but my body physically feels better. So there is a positive to this, but it's not the weight loss, and the nutrition plan is not the ultimate solution. It's just it's something that's helping me, one piece of me, and we'll fix the other part, the back thing, hopefully as we get through this. That's basically what the orthopedic says. He goes, "You're doing a great job. There's nothing more I can tell you to do, but until you're lighter, we really can't do any type of surgeries or any of that stuff." So I'm not even going to get into that because there's so many diagnoses that need to take place with you because your pain is everywhere. So manage it till then. Keep working your butt off. Stay swimming, and I'll see you in 6 months. So that's where we're at. But that's essentially what's taking place with my back. A fragmented disc, and then pressure on my spinal cord, and bulge disc, slip disc, whatever you want to call it. But it's where they're bulging and where they're slipping, because that sciatic nerve pain, that it's just, I can't even tell you. It's something beyond painful. And in my case, it goes all the way to my tippy toes, all the way to my fingertips, and into my head, like the way the triggers come up my neck and stuff. So it's not centralized just down to the leg or the kneecap, like in some people's cases. It goes everywhere, and it just it sucks. So, but hey, we're making steps here, folks. And again, I hope that answers your questions about what happened to your back. And that's today's question, big question of the day. All right, well, we are getting into another week here. I don't have a name for it yet. It's week 45. And I should say it's lap week 45, I'm calling it. Could be lap 46. It just depends on if I'm able to do 46. I'll try tomorrow. I'm going to go for it and see what happens. And again, my big goal is on July 5th, just here in a few weeks, 2.5 weeks, to do 50 laps swimming in the pool. That's going to be a big, big, big accomplishment if I can pull that bad boy off. So that's it. So I'll wrap up this episode 7 of the Paul Project with just thanking everybody for all their wonderful feedback and likes and so forth on all the social media platforms. Please feel free to share these videos. I want other people who I don't know to know about all this. I want them to learn if there's something. If they know something I don't know, give me some advice. I don't care. I love it all. I want the engagement. I want that artificial accountability, as I've mentioned before. And again, thanks to all those that have partaken already. But keep up the work and keep following me. Remember Twitter at the Paul Project #1, at pbizzle, on Facebook at the Paul Project #1, also YouTube the Paul Project #1, and then the MyFitnessPal. I really would say if I have a couple folks that have been following me there. I get some wonderful feedback from you there. But if you really want to know what's going on, what I'm doing, the day to day, meal to meal, literally, that's the place. And again, my name is pbizzle on there, PBIZZEL. So check it out. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email me at pabbeyer, @gmail.com. That's it. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. Happy Father's Day tomorrow. And I'll be seeing you next Monday for episode 8. Big weigh-in day. How low can Paul go? Have a good one, folks.